And good afternoon from Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. My name is Mary Auld-Kovacs, and this is Let's Talk, Real Talk on Parental Alienation and Intimate Family Domestic Violence. Welcome, everyone out there, alienated parents, children, grandparents, aunts, uncles, professionals. Please tune in today as Andy Martens and I have a special guest, RJ Kolar from Chicago. And he's going to tell us a horrific story that he's gone through in the last 3 years. Hasn't seen his daughter in 2.5 years. So Andy and I mean, welcome, Andy. It's been a while since we've seen you, but tell us a little bit, Andy, on what you know. You got your mic off. Tell us a little bit of what you know about parental alienation before we bring RJ on to tell his story and let the viewers know. This happens from Canada, across the US, UK. So, yes, what can you tell us, Andy?
Well, parental alienation is almost like a soap opera, like what's going back and forth between US and Canada. It's like a new president will be sworn in 30 days, and they're talking about Canada being the 51st state. But
Yeah.
no, seriously, we do the morning show, we do this show. Parental alienation is something when I think back on my mother's side of the family, very toxic. People grew up in a toxic family. What I saw, yelling and this and that. But fortunately, my genetics have gone to my grandmother. My mother's mother was the only one in that family that didn't yell and didn't participate in that. So therefore, she was able to be married 40 years until her husband died. I believe in the genetic setting personality. But we do our best to meet people. I was fortunate. I turned a blind date into a 40-year relationship. My wife has some health issues now, but I think that people want to, and we talked about it this morning on my morning show, people want to rush relationships. They put too much emphasis on, oh, good-looking guy or good-looking man, whatnot. Yeah. But you rush relationships, you get hooked up, you get married within 6 months, and then you find out, oh man, I made a mistake here. This was not working out because somebody set you up. You were looked at, you were searched out for this particular reason. This person didn't wake up and say, oh, I'm going to be a narcissist. I'm going to alienate. I'm going to get hooked up in a relationship and alienate my kids from the other partner. So this happens. It happened in my wife's family to her sister. Got alienated. Her kids were alienated by her brother, the youngest one in the family. And RJ, all I can say is this is happens. People should take their time getting to know somebody, as I did with my wife, 3 years, and then get married. But all the shows Mary and I have done for 3.5 years, this is the pattern. It's a relationship we have with Mary. I talk to her every day. It's not very difficult to make a relationship work. But narcissists, people that alienate children, have difficulty, and it's simple. Life is too short to make it complicated. So that's my short intro on parental alienation. Can it be avoided? Absolutely. But it's seems like it's getting harder because the courts and the lawyers and judges are against you, both in the United States and in Canada. And it's a money game. It's like there'll probably be a cure for cancer because it's too costly to have a cure. Big pharma doesn't want it. And so that's the smart thing. But Mary, your situation, you were pushed into it. You were set up with it. And It's something I didn't know about 30, 40 years ago. I learned that through what happened to my wife's sister. So I thought, what the hell's going
Right.
on here? Why would anybody in the family, a brother, alien, do that to a sister's kids? I mean, really? I thought, hey, this doesn't look right. And I had a gut feeling. I said, I want nothing to do with this kind of situation.
Right. Well, you know, it goes further back than 30 years. My ex-husband, 64 years, he
Oh,
was
it does.
alienated to never see a father. And then to have his father murdered once we found him, never to meet him. So it goes back, like there's history in these. I mean, there's so many hidden secrets in these families that they don't want other people to know. So, I mean, I have to disagree when you said that they don't wake up one day knowing that they're going to be a narcissist. You know what? They know. They know when
Oh,
they get
I was sorry. Let me clarify that. They do know. They just don't wake up and say, "Oh, I'm going to be a narcissist." They know that well in advance.
absolutely. They know that right when you're ready to leave, when you're ready to expose, when you've had enough, you know,
The only
that's
problem
when
is you don't know what you're being set up for.
right, exactly. You know, but you got to remember now, narcissists accuse you of things they did. So you can actually now know what you're going to be accused of before it happens. So beware. And welcome, RJ Kolar. Thank you for tuning in with us on Let's Talk Real Talk on Parental Alienation and, you know, intimate partner violence, which is enabled by the family courts. Tell us your story, RJ, like right from the beginning. Let us know how things were to what they progressed to. People need to understand this is
Andy's
a
point about
journey.
narcissism and the hidden agenda. I mean, the way that I was duped, I was only married for about 16 months.
Oh,
I met her. She was older than me. Baby clock was ticking. And what I learned in therapy later, we were married very briefly a long time ago, had an amazing child from it. What I learned in therapy after my divorce was they mirror you. You'll notice narcissists never offer information. They always ask, and then they mirror your answer. Oh, what do you want out of the marriage? Oh, I want kids, and I want a stay-at-home wife, and I want a support system while I build my company. Oh, that's amazing. I want children, and I want to support you, and I want you to build your company. It's a mirroring.
mm-hmm.
Because if they offer something and you don't agree, you have a chance of not being engaged or not being taken advantage of by that person. And that's what I learned in therapy. And by retroactively thinking about how the dating occurred and the courtship occurred with my ex-wife, I realized that she never offered any information. It was always asking me and responding, asking me and reacting. It was always that pattern. So that's an easy red flag. If you can ask questions, they don't answer them, or they only mirror your answers, you might be in the wrong place. That's what I learned after the fact. So married briefly, infidelity was occurring during the dating, during the engagement, and after the child on her side. I had suspicions of infidelity during dating, but not as significant. I had no proof.
Right.
And this is well before I knew what gaslighting was, well before I knew what victim blaming was. So every time I brought up some issue, I was the insecure one. I was the lesser man. I was the problem. I didn't trust her. Again, the narcissistic pattern is to accuse, right, of the opposite.
Projecting.
Yeah. And because I'm a competitive sort and an old school kind of guy, I thought, well, I have to up my game here to win this woman. So I kept upping my game and acknowledging and ultimately forgiving because I thought that's what was required. Because I was always taught growing up, marriage is hard work. I just didn't realize how hard it really was when you have someone sabotaging it from the other side. Skip ahead. Money was being embezzled from my company to her account. Cheating was occurring throughout. And one day I get a letter in the mail with hidden monies. And she, at that time, had sabotaged my career. She had sabotaged my friendships. She had sabotaged my reputation. And this is a lot of it not known at the time. And I come from a very old school Christian background that you lean on the community around you if you're having marriage problems. So I went to our friends, I went to her family, I went to find support, and everybody unilaterally heard these stories that weren't true about me. So that's how the marriage collapsed. And when I got the letter in the mail with the embezzled money with the evidence, I laughed at her and I said, we're done. She physically hurt me at that point. Cuts, scrapes, glasses, dishes thrown, all that fun stuff. I didn't ever lay a hand on her. I walked the next day, left my little 6-month-old with mom because I didn't really have an option. And then by the time I realized that I had, by definition, made a mistake by leaving my daughter there, the papers were filed, basically. And the idea that, and basically what happened was we agreed on 50-50 parenting and split money. Because her agenda was keeping the story contained. I had plenty of evidence. I had criminal evidence. I had physical abuse evidence. I had cheating evidence. So my threat to her basically was, I want 50-50 custody, no alimony, no child support, because I'm not giving you a dime. We split all of her bills for the rest of her life, and we go our separate ways. I want no contact with you if I can help it. Or we can go to war. I'll make sure all the money we have saved and you have stolen is wiped out, and everybody will know who you really are. And to a narcissist, that's the big threat.
That's
the
everything.
exposure of the truth, the exposure of the story, the exposure of the evidence. That got her to sign. And for almost 10 years, co-parenting, it was rough every so often, but co-parenting worked out sort of okay. Except when she wanted something extra. Not my daughter. My daughter was always taken care of wants and needs beyond. She was a princess. She is still a princess. I spoil her like a princess. However, the ex, if she wanted to go on a date or wanted to go on a weekend trip or wanted to go on a furlough or wanted an extra holiday, she wouldn't ask permission. She would just do it, which left my daughter in precarious positions throughout her young life. Sometimes stranded, sometimes abandoned, sometimes basically dropped on a doorstep, and other times just not dropped back off. Like for Christmases, for example, if she wanted to keep her on Christmas morning, which was my right by our agreement, she would just keep her and say, ha ha ha, it's already Christmas afternoon. What are you going to do now? So this was the pattern off and on, not all the time, but every couple years there would be an acting out.
Right. They're not consistent.
No. And she had her boyfriends and she had 3 fiancés after me. So like there was always another serious guy. And inevitably when the truth came out about why we get divorced and who she really was, they ran, as they should have. Good for them. Until, and this is what where all this began, my daughter came to me when she was 8 and said, Dad, the new boyfriend, we have new rules in the house. We have bathroom rules. And I'm like, what are bathroom rules? Well, he comes in my bathroom when I'm pottying and showering and I'm naked. And my mama says I have to lock the door now every time I go to the bathroom. And I flip out. Because, okay, once you're in a new house, you don't know. But if it happens enough that there has to be rules set and locks built to prevent this from happening, the guy's a predator.
Exactly.
And narcissists, and this is for the audience to understand, narcissists will literally sacrifice their own children and their safety to prevent the narrative of them choosing the wrong partner to come out. So when my daughter came to Dad during COVID and said, Dad, I know you were isolated for a couple weeks or months. Since you've been gone, this guy did this. This guy said that. It was groping. It was rubbing her legs, rubbing her back, calling her my love, bathroom rules, all this crazy stuff. And I am a victim of myself of molestation in high school. I went to therapy for that and learned the grooming pattern and learned the pattern of molestation patterns. I recognized it right away. I went to my ex, as any parent would, to go to their co-parent and said, this is what our daughter has told me. What the fuck is going on? And my daughter's response was, Mom knows about it and Mom won't help. And my ex-wife's response was, that never happened. She made it all up. My daughter is many things, mostly hugely positive. She is not a liar. 8-year-olds don't lie about things like this. So I start ramping up for legal litigation. I don't have a choice. Ex-wife files the first of 11 motions to remove my parenting rights. Lie after lie after lie after lie after lie, to your point about narcissists making up what they're doing.
And when did all that start? Like how far into the 50-50?
We were 50-50 for 10 years.
Right. But how long did it take?
The filings for change of parenting was about age 9 when my daughter started making accusations about her stepfather.
So that would be the 8th year, 7th year?
Yeah, eighth year of a divorce, 9th year of her life.
Okay.
We were divorced when she was 1.
Okay. So they go into stages.
Yeah, exactly.
To start alienating you, or not stages, steps.
Yeah, I mean, there was another time earlier in the process with another fiance where she tried to kidnap her across state lines into Wisconsin. The lawyer I hired, who was notoriously a winner in courts, was the firm we picked. I learned a whole lot about domestic court in Chicago from that law firm because they threw the case on purpose.
Right.
They had a chance to shut this down, bring my daughter to me, majority custody, change the rules of our divorce and custody, and protect my daughter from any further threats of kidnapping. They did none of that. When I asked them why they didn't pursue further, remediations or further solutions to the problem, oops. That firm currently is under federal investigation. They've been laundering money to judges for 15 years.
It's time to catch them.
So
they're messing with our children.
So my old firm is one of the dirtiest firms in Chicago, Cook County, Bierman Law. They're under investigation from everybody there is.
Wow. There
is a false BLM charity that they're channeling money to the judges in Cook County. I currently know of 11 judges, including my own, Judge Karen Bowes, who is accused of allegedly receiving funds from this dummy account to fix cases.
Well, I had a judge in my case, I had 6 of them, and one judge, after the one that allowed access of my kids to the abusive parent, said at the next case was, just give me a second. He said that, I know you paid him off, but you can't pay me.
I said something similar to my judge in GAL.
So there are some judges that are, recognizing this. And I'm so grateful that that judge did notice that the other judge got paid off.
Exactly.
Because that's how a lot of us are losing our kids. So we fight harder, longer. We're in the court system for years, decades. I mean, you've been fighting 13 years now.
No, I threw up my hands last year, but we haven't gotten to that point of the story yet. So
no, I know that, but I'm just trying to recap on how things, can progress into what we all deal with until it can get into criminal charges. What do you think, Andy?
Yeah, that's it is a problem. They don't want to know the truth, and I know in the case of my wife's my wife's brother, he was married with children, and he was married to 2 women at the same time. They nailed him in Barrie, Ontario's north of Toronto, and just a slap on the hand, and didn't tell his wife he was, but the woman that he was married to nailed him hard in court, so he lost thousands of dollars. But see, this is the problem. They are promiscuous. They don't care what you think of their actions.
They don't.
Bottom line.
I'll say this about the generalities that you're bringing up. It's not about the narcissist. I swear the court agents look for this type of personality.
Yes, they scope them out.
Because they know no amount of money will be too much to protect their narrative for themselves. Because it's not a narrative to children or the narrative to their friends or family. It's the self-narrative the narcissists get tripped up on. They have to believe they're the victim. They have to believe they're justified in the attention or the sex or the money that they're entitled to. The justification is why they pay these dirty agents to lie, cheat, steal children away from good parents. And the court agents from the governors of our countries, like of our states of our country, who receive what's called Title 4D matching dollars. The federal government matches dollars to remove children from homes and create custody changes and custody payments. The judges mostly are assigned, at least in Cook County. So they're politically handpicked and told what to do, how to roll, how to protect the dirty agents to make maximum profit.
Absolutely.
And we've uncovered the dark horse BLM payment structure through charities. All these judges own multiple LLCs, multiple charities. And what they do is these law firms, which make millions a year, millions upon millions a year, trafficking children to abusive homes, molesting homes, sexual deviance homes, they just donate 50 grand, 100 grand to the golf tournament or the charity event of the judge's choosing. And the judge gets a tax-free kickback to fix the case.
And this is why our politicians, give me a second. This is why we can't get help from our politicians. I mean, it's the attorneys general's part to get into these courtrooms to make it, accountable and transparent to us all. We're supposed to be able to go in and support other people going through the process as a community, as support work helper, advocates, and now we're being shut right out. And they don't even want to turn those cameras on, but yet they could put $165 million of hybrid hearings into the courtrooms. And I tried to get on a couple weeks ago, and the judge refused my access, not to mention the rest of us on Canada Court Watch. We could not get on. I mean, this is sad.
I actually have transcripts that I got quietly, and then the judge has now suppressed my entire case and gag ordered me. So, the big telltale sign that they got caught being corrupt in domestic cases is a suppression of the case.
Yes.
In Chicago, at least, Illinois law, the only people who can remove or shift or change a judge is the judge themselves.
Yes.
I'm not exaggerating when I say this. So you have to motion the judge to review their own judging, to judge that they shouldn't be the judge, and another judge should in fact be judging.
Exactly.
There is zero accountability. All of them have immunity. The court agents, the GAL, the child psychs, the custody evaluators, the judges all have immunity. The only people that do not have immunity are the parents. And it's by design, because they can just throw mud at each other, and eventually the judge will just say, well, I don't know all the evidence, because they don't review the evidence. And I don't know all the agents, because the judge just picks her own team. But they're going to pick the house that's the most conflicted, because the good parent will spend every nickel they have to get that child safe. And the bad parent will spend every nickel they have to defend their narrative.
Yes, themselves.
And that's why they move the kids to the abusive home almost automatically in all of these cases.
Absolutely. There's
no money in saving kids. To Andy's point about cancer, there's no money in curing cancer. There's lots of money in treating cancer.
Yes. Yes.
There's lots of money in treating children's abuse.
That's right. That's right. Treating cancer, because there are big pharmas coming up with all these chemo medications. Oh, this doesn't work. We'll go on to the next one. It's ongoing, costing millions and billions of dollars, this stuff.
I know my mother and my father faced it. My father passed away from cancer, and they misdiagnosed him because They were forcing him down the portal.
Yeah.
They didn't do simple blood tests to realize his livers and kidneys are allergic to the chemo, and the chemo killed him.
They
First
don't
treatment.
do the testing, yeah.
Because they had him in the portal. And when these parents, like myself and others, go into this portal, quote unquote, the plan's in place. The pattern is in the UK, in Australia, all over Canada and the US, any Western country. I've seen cases in Austria, Germany, Spain, France. I've seen cases all over the world. I've reviewed thousands of cases in the US. It's always the same pattern. False
Exactly.
accusation to remove child.
Yeah, 64 years.
Temporary restraining orders based on false accusations with no evidence. Judge upholds the TRO. The TRO can go on for forever. They hire all their agents, assign all of their agents to all make their money, $300, $500, $600 an hour. All their agents come in. The parent thinks that they're going to be proven innocent because there's no evidence against them, but it takes years. And everybody makes their money.
18 for me. I mean, I don't wish anybody to go through this because it creates so many illnesses in the human body. So, you know, the more these alienated children are brought back to court years after years after years, their life is shortened. Their expectancy is so grim that they become suicidal, they're depressed, they're anxious, they can't sustain a healthy relationship with anyone, not even themselves, because they're self-loathing, right?
It's the cycle. Because I was a child of the court system too. And what do? I end up marrying a narcissist because that feels normal.
Right. Well, I'm not just saying this. This is what my children at 34, 33, and 31 quoted to Justice Caraccia on the trial 3 years ago. They're suffering, and I haven't heard or seen them since. They disappeared after 18 years. They just poof once they testified on Zoom trial. They're no longer to be found. I've been begging for help. These are young women. They need help. They need to be found. They need to get, mental health therapy. And that's all I wanted, was the judge to recognize that these kids are suffering after alienating, for 18 years at the time. These kids didn't need to grow up in the court system while I was divorcing with the ex. Mind you, he brought me to court. So he used the kids to hide behind in order to protect them. And millions are doing this. I mean, men and women.
I think it's a 50-some billion dollar a year industry. And that doesn't count private therapies, doesn't count medication. That's straight legal.
Because, pharmaceutical companies are making money off of the mental health issues for the kids. They're put on Ritalin and all this at a very early age because they lost their mommy or daddy at the age of 4 or 5. So that schools are, your kid needs this. Kid needs to be put on. These
teachers in our country, at least, and I'm going to say this on the record to all the teachers out there, all the teachers I know were C&D students in primary and secondary school. They couldn't be accepted to a good school for a good program, so they became teachers. So you have these C&D dropout level women and men, mostly women, who now become teachers. They're all trained liberal. They're all trained progressive. They're all trained pro-trans, pro-this, pro-that. Then you put them in front of the kids, and then the state tells them, if you want your pension or your raise, you will go through this training. And the trainings are handpicked to make them more progressive, more crazy, and ultimately more susceptible to manipulation. Then they're feeding our kids this garbage. And my daughter came home twice crying, saying, Dad, the teacher says the world's going to end in 20 years from global warming. Well, we haven't talked about what I do for a living, but I previously ran a sustainable investment fund that invested in real estate and technology surrounding real estate in order to be more sustainable. Do you know what we learned after 6 years? It's all bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
New buildings, advanced technologies don't make a dent in a building's carbon footprint nor the world's carbon footprint. It doesn't matter. But my daughter came home to dad, who's an expert in the field, crying that the teacher, a woman who barely graduated high school with a 4-year degree and who makes 6 figures a year and a pension, that she told her that she's going to be dead in 20 years or maybe 10 years if we don't fix global warming. And a 9-year-old can't comprehend death in 10 years because that's older than they are.
Right.
And that's not abuse.
That's
but
horrible.
Me telling my daughter, don't go to that house, don't go to that teacher, you can't trust her, is somehow abuse.
Right.
It's insane because they run their own system. The government puts it in place, the training in place, the teachers in place, the programs in place. Our kids are affected. We are just parents who are going to work trying to make a living, raising good kids. We hear this abuse they're suffering from, and in my daughter's case, from home and from the school.
Right, mine too.
In my case, that a lot of cases don't have, is I subpoenaed the school records because my daughter told me, Dad, I told the social worker everything about the abuse. We subpoenaed, the judge refused. Subpoenaed again, the judge refused. Subpoenaed again, the judge refused. Finally, the judge gives me discovery. The Illinois school board's lawyers came to court, 7 of them, for a domestic court case, and said on the record, we destroyed this girl's records. They admitted the crimes. The judge has to immediately refer that to criminal court. Judge didn't do it. Because you know who assigned my judge years ago? The Illinois school board. She's protecting her own. She's a handpicked stooge. She's a criminal. She's probably some sort of satanic worshiper. And she's a psychotic Jewish woman who shouldn't be allowed power.
Right. I had to contact the school board because my daughter was threatened. Her death was planned on paper, passed around in the class. They suspended one kid, not the other. My daughter didn't want to go back to school. I contacted the school board. The school board, Catherine Sussex was her name, in London, Ontario, told me that she didn't want to pursue the matter because she was retiring soon, and if she did, they'd take her retirement. And this was in 2008 and 9. I was brought back to court, so I had to get my evidence because my ex-husband wrote a false affidavit putting the principal's name on it. So when I took it to the school board, this is what Catherine Sussex told me, that she's retiring soon and didn't want to investigate. But I didn't allow her to, right to the day she retired. I kept telling her, calling her and saying, hey, come on, I want evidence, until she finally went to the principal that apparently wrote the false affidavit saying that he didn't write it. And I'm thinking, wow, I lost my children and I couldn't go to their graduation, couldn't get their school records. I couldn't see any school activity after being a vice chair and chair for the CPTA for nearly 12 years. I was stripped right out of all access at the school because Justice Taylor took it away from me because of false affidavits. And he knew I had recordings. I had everything. I made appointments. The principal, everybody.
I have so much evidence that the judge could choke on it.
Yeah.
And the best one was they accused me of a state investigation into my abuse. Okay. Which is DCFS in Illinois, CPS in other states, Child Protective Services. But we have Chicago Public Schools in Illinois, so we don't call it CPS, we call it DCFS.
Right.
Department of Child and Family Services.
Right.
I filed a DCFS complaint against the mom and the stepdad for molesting my child because the molesting evidence is real. I have video, I have footage, I have witnesses. Judge has not heard one of those in 3 years. She refuses to hear any evidence. The school had evidence of my daughter's admissions with her social worker. They have admitted to destroying that evidence. The GAL heard my daughter on video recording on a Zoom call during COVID time, saying the abuse and molestation occurred. The GAL on court record admitted to destroying that evidence. And what's amazing about all of this is that all that evidence, the only thing the judge held on to was, oh, there's a pending investigation into Mr. Kolar for child abuse. I'm like, great. You need to have a call stamp, call time, call receptionist. It's on record. Provide that for me. 3 months, the judge let the GAL and opposing counsel slide on providing that evidence. I went and got a letter from the state with my name, social security number, date, time, retroactive to 6 months, saying there was never an accusation made against this man. Ever. I gave it to the judge. Can you please read this into the record, Your Honor? I don't have my glasses today. Oh, it's okay. I brought a 24 by 36 blow up of it. Can you read this? And she read it out loud.
Good for you.
And she said, oh, well, there's no accusation, no history of accusation, and no pending investigation into Mr. Kolar. Judge is like, that doesn't prove anything. I'm keeping the child in the mother's home. I can't get harder evidence than proving that the opposing counsel and GAO and school fabricated evidence against me. Then
yes.
the state of Illinois itself said it's fabricated.
Right.
And the judges, that doesn't prove anything. And that was 2 years ago. And then after that, I proved I had a deposition with the teacher. Teacher admitted my daughter she was told she was being abused. Principal was held out of depositions.
Did any of them get held accountable for it?
What's that?
Did any of them get held accountable for it?
No, the judge actually ruled that none of them had lied to her up to that point.
Wow.
She put it in writing in her judge's order. She said, none of my assigned agents have lied to me up to this point.
Unbelievable.
So the judge is in on it.
Oh, yeah, of course they are.
Then we uncovered the BLM payment scheme. Then we uncovered the Illinois School Board's money to her charities and assigning her the judgeship. And then we uncovered the school destroying my daughter's records. All that came after she ruled no one lied to her. We kept digging and digging and digging and digging. I had 3 of the world's experts on child grooming and molestation come into court and state emphatically my daughter was groomed and molested. The judge threw them all out of court. Literally threw them out of court.
That's crazy.
And her investigator, she assigned her own investigator.
Yeah.
Her investigator came back and said, there is strong evidence that the girl was being groomed and molested, and these 3 experts that Mr. Kolar has hired are luminaries in the field, top of the field. I agree with them emphatically that he is a pedophile profile and he is groomed and potentially molested this child. My recommendation is she stay in that home. That's from her own investigator. She said she was molested, groomed, and this guy's a pedophile.
Wow.
Judge
So
suppressed that report before it came out.
So what have you done about that report since? Has anything come out of it?
Online, and then my website for my daughter and my own company's websites were hacked and taken down last year. They attacked my company and my finances.
That's what they do.
The FBI and SEC were anonymously tipped off about my company, and I was held. My assets were frozen, and my company was attacked for 6 months. And I have letters from both the FBI and the SEC saying I'm a clean businessman.
Wow. So where are you at this stage today now?
I'm not going to use the courts anymore, I'll tell you that.
So you're pro se?
I've been pro se for the majority of this.
And how much have you saved since? And have you gotten far with it?
Oh, I don't count dollars. I count progress.
Well, that's what I mean. How far have you come along since? Just want to say hi to Autumn. Hi, Autumn. Molly says hi. Thanks for tuning in. This is RJ Kolar from Chicago. And I mean, what he's going through is just pure evil. To know that your child is being sexually abused, molested, trafficked, and we can't do anything about it. I've gone through 19 years of this where my two daughters went through the same thing. But my kids, when they wrote me, they wrote in ways to say help, help, help. And no one could see it unless you know when you're reading your own child's messages to you. Because I just today came across a few of them where my daughter says, what, you think I was brainwashed? What, you think I was prostituted? What, you think this or you think that? These are signs that our kids are giving us secret signals of coming to get them. And the more I went to get them, the worse it got. My alienated children from 15, 17, and 18 grew for 19 years mentally, emotionally, and psychologically messed up until one of them suffered a psychotic episode because he just couldn't take the lies he had to remember over and over. And all three of them, watching them on a Zoom trial, just broke my heart because every one of them had a totally different story, including the father, my ex-husband, because 18 years ago he told it one way to admitting it 18 years later. I mean, it's just remarkable how these narcissistic personalities continue to abuse the children to protect themselves. And what we need to do is to get our transcripts, get our videos, whatever, just for our own records so that we can literally compare to what we've gone through over the court process, because it's overwhelming to know, to see, and remember everything we go through. And if we don't have those transcripts, it's unbelievable. Like, even we doubt ourselves. Did that really happen? Did I really get accused of this? And like, where's this one coming? And we got no help. We have no voice.
Recommendation to what you're saying is, parents, don't waste money on lawyers and whatever. Spend the money on the transcripts before anyone else asks for them. I have seen in Illinois, Chicago, doctored transcripts. I've seen destroyed, lost transcripts. I've seen injunctions filed to block transcripts. Those transcripts getting these people in their subconscious to say dirty agent items. We destroyed evidence. We are not hearing this today. This person's thrown out. Those are gems.
Yes.
Those are gems, and you need that transcript signed and dated by that paralegal or that
transcriber. Yeah.
You need that. You need those, because that email to you, timestamp, that attachment in your email is solid gold.
Exactly.
Because if they change it later, which they do change these transcripts later to cover up bad cases.
Oh, they do. I've got evidence.
You have the timestamped attachment in your email versus the new version, and you can bang them on it in civil and or criminal court.
Right.
The domestic court in America is not a constitutional court. They follow no rules, nor do they have to follow any constitutional law. They don't have to give you discovery, cross-examination rights, evidentiary rights. They don't have to give you any of that. But they're terrified of civil for the money and criminal, because eventually you're going to find a DA. Not in Chicago. Our DA is the dirtiest bird there is. Kim Fox, you're a criminal too. If you're not in Illinois where the DAs are handpicked and bribed to shut down cases, like Chicago,
right?
And you're in a normal town, the DAs or the state investigators will in fact listen to child custody, child welfare cases. Show them those transcripts and you have a fighting chance.
Right.
If I do it all over again, I would have walked out of court a year earlier with the transcripts where the judge was being a racist, denying evidence, denying everything else. I would have went straight to the feds and prayed, because that's the best chance my daughter has.
Right.
The state agents are all part of the game. The governor makes money from it. The judges make money from it. The state investigator, Illinois school board makes money from it. Everyone has profited from my child's pain, which is why I'm not trusting the court system in any capacity. They're all part of it.
Mine 3 times, 3 kids, 3 kids. ruined at 15, 17, and 18.
This isn't woe is me. This is a one-off example. There's thousands of cases a month that this
Oh yeah,
happens.
millions.
Every
Millions.
speaking Western population country, period.
We need to stop it with ours. We need to be loud. We have the evidence. We have the proof. But what we need to do is intercept these courts. We need to get people out of the court system and pro se, do it themselves, because now our attorney general has announced that they're upping the legal aid for litigants. Why are they upping legal aid? Because pro se is the reason why people don't have a lawyer, because they can't afford it. So now they're giving you legal aid so you could go to them instead of going pro se. So they're still in the system. They're still using the court
Pro se is the
system.
most dangerous thing to these clowns, because a pro se attorney has parental rights and legal rights.
Right.
If you hire a lawyer involved in this racket, which almost all of them are, they're going to extend this case like my first firm did, Bierman Law. They'll throw the case to extend the child's pain to make more money.
Yes.
There is no money in protecting a child.
None.
All the money is extending drugs, psychs, social workers, agents, child rep lawyer, child advocate lawyer, GALs, all these stupid clowns making $300, $400, $500 an hour. All the money's there.
Mm-hmm.
Well, how do you get there? You get there by putting the child in the most adverse environment possible and effing them up within their minds and their hearts, and losing their best parent or their protective parent. And it's not a woman versus man thing. And that's another thing that bothers the shit out of me. There's the female advocate pro moms. There's the male advocate pro dads. You know what? You guys are helping them do this.
That's right. That's right.
It's protective parent, abusive parent. Protective household, abusive household. Sex does not come into it.
Exactly. They blame other people's wives or husbands for what they're going through.
Figure out which parent is the alienator, abuser, narcissist, or deeper pockets. The child's in that home. The end.
That's right. Every family is got one or the other. Every family.
Every single domestic court has one agitator, instigator, narcissist, psycho.
That's
abuser, molester, and one protective, good, God-fearing, good parent.
That's
Every single one of these cases.
And I highly urge anyone here who trashes a mother or just slash a father is, you need to get off social media, because you're just hurting everybody else out there. If you can't support both, we'll never end this in the court system, because we need to be together. The courts are separating us. It's division. What is divorce? It's divide.
There's a famous group called Custody Peace. Okay?
Right.
They are mostly pro-mom. They are the same color as the United Nations flag. They're the same talking points as the United Nations flag. They quote the United Nations constantly. The United Nations has come out on record and said parental alienation does not exist. Why? Because the United Nations agenda is depopulation. The United Nations agenda is destroying families, core families, mother and father, masculine, feminine. It's destroying children. The UN is literally at fault here. The UN and Custody Peace have the same font, same color, same everything, but the Custody Peace is the pro-mom side.
Okay.
The UN also funds a pro-dad group. Why do they want women and men fighting? Because that's the parents in most cases. The mom and the dad, the mom and the dad, the mom and the dad. If they make you think, oh, it's all biased against dads, or oh, it's all biased against women, or oh, dads are the abusers, or oh, moms are the psychos. It doesn't matter. You're helping aid them and feeding the system.
That's right. I mean, we got same-sex marriages too that are going through this. So who are you going to blame there? If they're both male or both female?
Mom or dad, or black and white, or rich or poor.
Right.
The abuser gets the child because there's more money in the abuser having the child.
Right. I'm going to get you to read this from James, if you don't mind, JR. Can you read this from for
Yeah, I
us?
went to my children's nativity play Tuesday night. They smiled at me during the performance. I'm assuming the children, but their mother wouldn't let me come and speak to me afterwards.
We get a lot of that, especially at hockey games, basketball games,
Yeah, we had the same
children's
thing.
activities. Yes,
Soccer game, basketball game. She wouldn't take her to her dance practices, all kinds of stuff. That's how
right.
it starts. Then it escalates into the money, the accusations, the whatever.
That's
These
right.
narcissists have a system, and the lawyers also have a system. It's the teasing, the reactions. And this
Absolutely.
is what you have to understand. Most of these lawyers are trained by a group in America, at least, called the AFCC, the American Family Courts. Okay, the AFCC. I've seen the videos at the conferences they have, $1 million conferences with these assholes. They're training the lawyers on how to alienate the parents, how to avoid evidence, how to spy on their opposing counsel or the pro se attorney, how to eliminate expert witnesses from outside the court handpicked system to come in to witness.
Right.
They are trained how to beat every single possible move a parent can make to save their kids. They're trained for this.
Time is money. So the longer they extend it, the more they make.
These lawyers the domestic lawyers are mostly trained on how to do this.
Yes.
And you're going to ask a lawyer?
They have.
Ask, for the audience, ask yourselves this. You're going to trust a lawyer to be honest and take less money in a case. Ask yourself why that doesn't make any sense at all, because you'll understand why they do not care about kids.
That's right. It's money.
I've never met a lawyer in my life who rolled back their fees.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's why it's highly recommended that we do not go into the family courtrooms. I went, and I ended up dropping the whole thing because I didn't want to waste my money on going to the court. So I thought, my kids are teenagers. We could do this amicably. Well, it turned out after 3 months of dropping it, I ended up getting falsely arrested. So that beat that situation, me for trying.
I am currently living outside of my home. I'm living outside of my county because I used to live 6 blocks from my ex-wife. They could put a restraining order on me for any reason they want to, which they do to parents constantly as part of the scheme.
It was on me.
The minute they put it on me, I'm in the radius of my own child and my own ex-wife because I live in the same neighborhood.
Yeah.
I would be arrested immediately without even knowing it was filed. I am living outside of my home right now, paying 2 mortgages because I have to split time between my home and my safe home in order to avoid being falsely arrested like Mary has been and countless other parents. And for the audience who may not understand this, when they lose control of a case, like they lost control of my case and Mary's case, they will in fact arrest you and will in fact create a criminal record for you. So now they have a new reason to keep you away from your children.
And they call you all kinds of alcoholic. They call you a drug addict. It's all in your police record. Meanwhile, you've never done crack. You don't drink. It's horrific what we have to go through.
I was on a business trip to Atlanta, and I got a text one morning saying, "Hey, Ryan, I saw you at the bar the other night. You were pretty drunk." And I'm like, "I wasn't at the bar." "Yes, you were. I saw you. You were hitting on that underage girl drinking." All they want you to do is react.
Right.
So now they have a text record of you saying no, or yes, I was at the bar, or whatever, because that's the narrative. And then they asked me, "Well, where can I get some Coke? I know you know." And I said, "Yeah, 7-Eleven is next to the Sprite."
Good for you.
And they responded, and they're like, "No, I know you might not do Coke, but I know you drink like a fish." And I'm like, I drink a glass of wine with a cigar every so often. That's as far as my drinking goes.
Yeah.
Now, I didn't say that to the text, but I'm getting random Google texts, and I have been since the beginning of this case, accusations of rape, accusations of harassment, accusations of alcoholism, drug use, whatever. You don't live in your home anymore. Like, they know, they have bugs on you. The technology exists. They know where you are, where your phone
yeah.
is, all this. All they want you to do is have some level of lapse of judgment and respond. And then they have you on a new thing.
Yeah.
They have to have new stuff on you to keep your kids away from you. That's why I walked out of court 18 months ago with my fingers in the air to Judge Karen Bowes saying, you suppress this case. You won't show evidence. You won't let me present witnesses or evidence or experts. This is a joke. As long as these two criminals are sitting across from me and you know they're criminals because I proved it, I'm not going to be here. And I walked out of court. By diffusing their money, no one's making money off this. By diffusing their money, my daughter is somehow safer. Now, she's still in a home of a pedophile. I can't fix that right now. But the lawyers
alerted it.
And the agents do not have an incentive because I won't play their game.
Right. I was the same. Well, we're getting to the top of the hour here, JR, and we have about 5 minutes. But if you'd like to come back and do a part 2 series, I mean,
I would like to do anything you would like. I very much enjoyed my time here, and thank you for letting me tell my daughter's story.
Yeah, well, you know what? This is serious shit out there, and when our children are suffering, and we know what they're thinking, come get us, come get me, you know, like, it's not just the one, it's 2 or 3. Some people are losing 5 children. Now, how do you get 5 children to be consistent in the same bullshit story? It's because they've been coached, brainwashed, manipulated.
Well, it starts with teachers and social workers at the school who were government agents, through the court system who were trained on how to coach everybody, through the judges who were getting kickbacks and bonuses and pension bonuses for the state match dollars, and then up to the governor and politicians who were getting fees off of the custody changes.
Yes.
It's a system built to do this.
And how sad is that?
30 plus years it's been going on.
Kids are getting punished at school for lying, and yet all these teachers and principals and everybody else, I mean, it's sad. Who are these hypocritical people lying about our children, the abuse? They don't help the kids. They trash the other parent because the other parent said so. These teachers need to keep their noses out of it. CAS is not allowed to go into the schools.
Oh, I have a teacher, Stephanie Barbera, who admitted she knew about my daughter's molestation. She's a mandatory reporter. That's a criminal act, guaranteed 1 to 2 years in prison. The judge will not recommend her to criminal court.
Harboring information.
The principal wasn't allowed to depose. I wasn't allowed to depose him. Brett Baudoff is a coward. He knew about the abuse a year before I did. He has 2 of his own daughters.
Oh, well.
I hope they one day learn that their father protected a pedophile and he made money off of my child being molested. Brett Baudoff is a coward. He's not a man. And I look forward to one day seeing him on the street.
Yeah. I mean, how do they go home?
Physical violence. I'm just going to tell him the facts and let his daughters and wife know who the hell he is.
You know, how do they go home and hug their children knowing they've destroyed millions of other children?
Money. They get to live in their fancy little house with their fancy little yard and their perfect little kids who never had to face trauma because their kids don't go to public school. Their kids go private school.
Right. It's sad. It's so sad. Well,
court agents are nasty. The teachers and principals are nasty. Social workers are nasty. But really, at least in America, the governors are making so much money off the blood of children. It trickles down to the lawyers, the law firms, the judges, everybody else down. The states are making money off of children's blood.
Yes, they are.
Across the world.
Damaging them for life to become the next generation of abusers.
Divorces and head cases and dependencies and whatever, because there's money in that.
Addiction, exactly. Drug addiction, alcohol addictions. I mean, look what happened in Ontario, Canada. Doug Ford went and put alcohol into the 7-Eleven store, corner stores where children go to get candy, chips, to see all this alcohol. It's, it's all glorified abuse to these children once they've been alienated, because they got to turn to something to make them feel better. But RJ, thank you so much for coming on Let's Talk, Real Talk on parental alienation and intimate partner violence enabled by the family court system, because our children don't deserve to be going through this, nor do our grandchildren, because this is what's happening to a lot of grandparents too, losing their children's grandchildren. It's just horrific how these kids, you could hear them screaming, help me, help me, help me, get me out of this situation. We know what it feels like. We've been there. A lot of us have been there, and we were protecting our kids from it. But the court system just, it makes it worse. So until next time, RJ, thank you so much. We're getting close to Christmas, and I pray that, if somehow your ex can see this video and your daughter, that you get some kind of sign that your daughter's thinking about you. And all of our kids.
I had an amazing 10 years of being her father. I couldn't be more proud of her, and she's the one who came to me with all of this.
Well, there you go.
What teacher, what principal, what social worker, what lawyer, what coach, what psych. She told me where to find the evidence before they took her away from me.
Wow. That's good that she did that. She reached out. A lot of kids are scared because they've been conditioned to believe that that other parent is dangerous. They'll kill them. They'll take them out of the country. It's just ruthless.
My daughter came home more than once crying about mom hurting her physically and emotionally and mentally. And she knows that I'm there. And if you can hear me, Kiko, where you see this years from now, understand that I'm not going to let this one go. I'm going to get everything that's going to hurt you.
That's right. Your last words?
That's it. I miss you like crazy, and I'm not giving up on you.
Thank you so much, RJ Kolar from Chicago, and myself, Auld-Kovacs from Hamilton, Ontario. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you next time on Let's Talk, Real Talk on Parental Alienation. Good night, everyone, and Merry Christmas.